Welcome everyone, I'm Ian Luke, and this is the Real Supernatural Events channel. Don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss the upcoming videos, and let us know in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Have sweet nightmares, and don't forget to leave your bedroom light on. Good evening, Luke. I hope all is well with you. My name is Virginia. I'm 28 years old. What I have to share with you today is a story very important to me, something that has accompanied me until now, and I would like your listeners to help me understand what is happening to me. I've already heard from some people that I'm a medium, but I've never had any experience like this. In fact, I didn't believe in such things, or at least I didn't, until it happened to me. I will never forget the day it all began. My father, a man who had always been my hero, had left this world, and on the day of his wake, I still felt the sharp pain of his absence. It was a gray day, with low clouds that seemed to mirror my state of mind. The wake was filled with sorrowful faces, but what struck me most was learning that he had been buried with a Guarani shirt, the very same he received from the company where he worked for so many years. I never imagined that such a detail could carry such a profound and unsettling meaning. Returning home, alone at that moment, I felt a mix of exhaustion and grief. I arrived, and upon opening my bedroom door, something froze me in place. There, carefully laid out on my bed, was my father's shirt. I was sure I had seen it in the coffin, yet how had it ended up here? The sight was so unexpected and inexplicable that it sent shivers from my head to my toes. I felt a strange energy course through my entire body, and the feeling that something was not right refused to leave me. I remember stopping for a moment, staring at that piece of fabric which somehow seemed imbued with a familiar, yet eerily disturbing energy. The atmosphere of my bedroom, once my safe haven, and transformed in that instant into a space I could no longer call my own. It was as if my father's presence had crossed the boundary between the living and the dead, materializing in a way I never could have imagined. After that event, I began noticing things that deeply unsettled me. In moments when I thought I was alone, I was overcome by an inexplicable feeling of being watched. I constantly found myself glancing into the room's corners and down empty hallways, as if expecting to see a moving shadow. And even though I saw nothing tangible, the gentle scent of my father, the very fragrance he wore when he came home, began to permeate every room. It was a comforting yet disquieting aroma that reminded me of happy times, but also hinted that something else was occurring. My mother, always very sensitive and unable to handle strong emotions due to her heart problems, could not know what was happening. So I decided to keep it all to myself. I took the shirt that had inexplicably appeared on my bed and placed it in a bag. My initial plan was to donate that shirt to a homeless person. Perhaps that way I could rid myself of an object that, all of a sudden, seemed to carry the heavy weight of grief and secrets I couldn't understand. However, even as I continued with my routine, the sensation that something abnormal was occurring never left me. 3 days passed, and upon returning from work, I sensed that the house was no longer as silent as before. The feeling of being watched intensified, and with every step I took, I felt as though invisible eyes were following me. It was a disconcerting sensation, one that made my heart beat faster and filled me with deep unease. One afternoon, after coming home from work, I realized I wasn't alone. The air felt charged with a presence I couldn't identify. The sensation was so strong that I decided to ask a friend to stay with me that night. She used to spend nights at my house now and then, and her presence helped ease the tension and anxiety that had been building inside me. Even without explaining in detail the strange events, her mere presence already comforted me, even though nothing could truly dispel the fear that had taken root within me. As the night wore on, the house remained steeped in a heavy silence. I tried to sleep, yet the sense that someone or something lurked nearby kept me from relaxing. Every time I closed my eyes, I envisioned figures gliding through the shadows in the room's corners. The fear, which at first appeared irrational, now haunted me like a constant shadow. The next morning, still shaken by what I had experienced, I sought out my best childhood friend. Since we were little, he had always been by my side, and I felt I could trust him to help make sense of what was happening. I recounted everything, from the inexplicable appearance of the shirt to the familiar fragrance that permeated the house and the unsettling feeling of being watched. He listened intently, his expression a mix of concern and skepticism, and suggested that I visit the cemetery to light a candle for my father. According to him, perhaps this gesture would calm the spirits, or at least yield some sort of answer to the situation. I accepted the idea, even though deep down I wasn't entirely convinced. That very afternoon, I made my way to the cemetery. The place had always evoked a sense of melancholy in me, but that evening, under the dim glow of dusk, everything appeared even darker and shrouded in mystery. I strolled among the graves, feeling that somehow I was closer to my father than ever before. I reached the grave where he rested and, with trembling hands, lit a candle. The flame, small and wavering, seemed to battle the darkness that surrounded me. I sensed that at that moment, something was linking me to my father, something that went beyond the simple bond of blood and memory. I was there, attempting to forge one final channel of communication, a bridge that might span the divide between the two worlds. While I lingered there in silence, something happened that chilled me to the core. As I brushed my fingers along the tombstone, I felt a light, icy touch on my hand. It was as if a hand, cold as ice, had rested upon mine. Overcome with terror, I quickly recoiled. My heart pounded, and the feeling of imminent danger grew ever stronger. I couldn't tell if it was real or merely the product of my grief-tormented imagination, but in that instant, everything felt unreal. I ran without looking back, leaving behind the candle and the unsettling presence that had, in its own mysterious way, made itself known in that sacred place. For the remainder of the night, I stayed awake, trapped between fear and confusion. My mind incessantly wondered, what was my father trying to tell me? Why was he manifesting in a manner so strange yet so achingly familiar? I had always remembered him as an extraordinary man, a devoted father and exemplary husband, and I could not fathom why his presence now seemed laden with a warning or an urgent alert. In the days that followed, the supernatural events persisted in a subtle yet undeniable fashion. I spent hours alone in the house, desperately seeking an explanation for what was unfolding, but the answers never came. Every time I sat down to reminisce about the joyful moments we shared, the sense of his presence intensified. The familiar scent, the shirt, the cold hand, each sign appeared to insist that he was trying to communicate with me, yet the message remained hidden, cloaked in mystery. With each new experience, I felt a mix of fear and longing. I knew that what was happening wasn't ordinary, yet a part of me desperately craved his comforting presence, even if it came in such an inexplicable way. In moments of solitude, I found myself silently talking to him, wondering in my mind what I had done to deserve such distance, or if he needed something I had missed. This search for answers consumed me, and I lived in a constant state of alert, terrified that something worse might occur. Despite the terror that shadowed me, I tried to maintain my routine. I went to work, tended to the house, and sought distraction in small daily tasks. Yet whenever night fell and silence settled in, I felt invaded by a presence that could not be ignored. The room that once had been my sanctuary now turned into a stage of memories and apparitions that left me uneasy. I couldn't sleep well and often woke in the middle of the night with my heart pounding and the sense that someone was there watching my every move. That experience at the cemetery remains etched in my memory as the most terrifying moment of this entire sequence of events. The cold hand I felt on my wrist seemed like a touch from destiny itself, a desperate attempt to convey something beyond words. I spent days replaying that moment, trying to decipher its meaning. Was my father trying to warn me of an impending danger? Was there something he needed to tell me, yet even in his spectral form he couldn't find the right words? Even with all the doubts and fears, I began to see these events as an opportunity to honor my father's memory. Instead of regarding the supernatural manifestations merely as signs of terror, I started to interpret them as a bond connecting me to him. Every time I caught a whiff of his familiar scent, or saw that shirt lying in unexpected places, I felt a mix of solace and unease. It was as if he were present, accompanying me even after his departure, trying to guide me amid life's uncertainties. Over time, I sought rational explanations for what was occurring. I read about similar cases where people claimed to feel the presence of loved ones after death, and somehow that helped to ease my heart a little. I wondered if my grieving, fragile mind was deceiving me. Yet, each time the events recurred with such intensity, a psychological explanation seemed inadequate to encompass the reality I was living. The feeling of being watched never completely vanished. I began to sense that even in public places, my father's presence was with me in an almost imperceptible but very real way. Sometimes, while walking along the streets, I swore I felt a soft, comforting breeze, as if he were there, gently touching me to say I wasn't alone. Other times, on particularly quiet nights, the sound of the wind and rustling leaves seemed to whisper secrets that I could not fully grasp. Luke, even with all this mystery, the truth is that what disturbed me the most was the feeling of alert, a sense that there was something more, something my father wanted to tell me, but that I still could not understand. On several occasions, I found myself standing before the mirror, facing my own reflection, trying to capture some message or sign that might have gone unnoticed. The fear blended with hope, leaving me torn between the desire to believe he was there to protect me and the anxiety that his presence foretold something terrible to come. During that period of anguish and uncertainty, many nights passed without sleep. Loneliness and mourning became constant companions. Yet at the same time, every supernatural experience reminded me of the love and care my father always had for me. Even though his presence was shrouded in mystery and terror, there were moments when I could feel the warmth of his memories, as if behind the darkness there was a light guiding my every step. Today, as I write this account, I still feel a shiver recalling each detail. Every inexplicable touch, every familiar scent, every sensation of being watched continues to accompany me, and I will never stop wondering, what does he truly want to tell me? I know that, in some way, this bond that transcends life and death is trying to alert me to something, but so far that message remains hidden, wrapped in secrets that time may one day reveal. My friends, I believe the spirit world is filled with mysteries we will never fully understand. Perhaps my father, even in his spiritual form, feels the need to be by my side to guide me through difficult times or to protect me from something I have yet to perceive. Every supernatural occurrence, however frightening, makes me reflect on the fragility of our existence and on the enduring power of love that remains even after we depart. Even while living with this constant unease, I have learned to accept that not every question will have an answer. My father always was, and always will be, an example of love and dedication, and if this is the way he has chosen to communicate, I cannot simply ignore it. Today, my days are still marked by moments of tension and silence, laden with hidden meanings. His scent still appears suddenly. The feeling of being watched still makes me glance toward the corners of the house, and the memory of that cold hand at the cemetery still sends shivers through me. Yet amid all this, I also feel a force propelling me forward, a force that reminds me of the unconditional love of a father who, even after death, insists on remaining present in my life. As I write these lines, my heart still races when I recall the most intense moments. I know that what I experienced was real, even if the reason behind it all continues to elude me. And so I go on living with this constant sensation that somewhere my father is watching over me, protecting me, and perhaps warning me about something that only time will eventually reveal. This experience, as strange as it is painful, has become part of my story, a story of love, loss, and mystery that, even after so many days, continues to accompany me at every step of my journey. Luke, my friend, I am deeply grateful to you for sharing my story. I hope the channel's listeners enjoyed it. I thank you all for your attention and wish you a wonderful and blessed night. Thank you very much for watching our video until the end. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Have a haunted night, everyone, and see you next time.